We have so far implemented all the TCP scanning techniques, and in the last lecture we also implemented the UDP scanning techniques. Now we were able to go to the terminal and run the port scanner and scan port for us. But the problem is, even though we can still specify the type of scan over the terminal, the type of scan that we want to perform, whether it is a UDP scan or TCP scan or Windows scan. But the scan type, we have to come and make sure that the scan type that is invoked in the main body of the program is the type of the scan that we specify over the terminal. The program cannot determine from the terminal what type of scan that was specified, and then within the body of the program invoke that particular scan type. For instance, now in line 220.21, we invoke the UDP scan. Now when we go to the terminal and try to perform a TCP scan, it is not TCP scan that will actually be carried out. It is the UDP scan that is hard coded in the body of the program. So what I'm saying, let's say we run sudo python 3, and then we port scanner.py, and then we specify the target 10.0.2.15, and then we specify we want to perform a TCP scan, and then we specify the port, say port 135, and then we hit enter. Now, okay, enter the password. Now, actually, what the type of scan that is going to be executed is the UDP scan, because that is what we have coded in the the scan type that was actually invoked in the main body of the program. So we have a problem. So we have to add a functionality in such a way that the type of scan that we specify over the terminal, it is the type of scan that is actually executed and result returned to us over the terminal. Okay, and another thing also, when we specify the port, so here we have been specifying only one port, but our program has the functionality for us to specify a single port and then specify a port list. Say I want to scan port 22, port 23, port 45, 34, 53, and port 180. And then I want to specify, or I can also specify a port range. Say I want to scan port 400 to 500. If I hit enter, I'm only going to have a scan result for the first port, which is port 135. So it is actually only one port that is going to be scanned, because so we can see we have the result close, and we don't actually know which of the port that was scanned. But I believe that it is the first port that we specify using -p 135, because all our scanning functions that we have coded have only the ability to scan only one port, and then the result is printed out. So we need to create a functionality that will iterate about the port that we have given, and then print out the result for all the ports that we have specified over the terminal. So that is one of the things that we need to improve our program with. So in this lecture, we are going to create a function called specify scan type that will enable us to specify the type of scan that we want to use, that we want to carry out in using our port scanner, and then it will invoke that particular scan type, perform the scan, and output the result for us. So I'll just come down here, and then I'm going to define it. I'm going to call it and define a function, and then I'm going to call it specify scan type. Okay, so and then when I invoke this function, I'm going to, as expected, I'm going to pass the scan type, the function. I'm going to pass the scan type, and then the port, the target that I want to scan, and then the port that I want to scan, or the port that I want to scan. So whenever I invoke this function, I'm going to pass the scan type, the target, and the port. So we have already, remember that we have already created function set port that will actually set all the ports that we pass using the optional optional argument. Using the optional argument, it will set all the ports and then return to us a port list containing all the ports that we have specify over the terminal. So now we have the ports and in a form of a list. Now we are going to make use of the specify scan type function to iterate over the port and then invoke the scan type that was specified, call the scan type, perform the scan, and then we output the result. All right. So the first thing that we are going to do, I'm going to create a dictionary. I'm going to call it result dict. So I've created a dictionary and created an empty dictionary, so that now the purpose of this dictionary is that we are going to make use of dictionary to populate the result of the scan that we invoke that particular scan type. That basically what I'm trying to mean is that when we call the scan type that we want to carry, that the user specify over the terminal, we perform the scan, then we are going to populate the dictionary with the result of the scan. All right, of the scan. So that is what we are going to do. So now we are going to iterate over the port, and then each time we are going to invoke that particular scan type that was used, perform the scan, and then append the result to our dictionary. So now, but we don't know the scan type that was actually specified. So for that, we are going to check the scan type first, and then invoke the appropriate scanning function. So we are going to check if scan type, the parameter that we pass, if scan type is equivalent to TCP scan. Remember that you make use of the TCP option to specify TCP scan type. Now, if it is TCP scan that was specified, then we are going to make use of a for loop to iterate through the port and then invoke TCP scan each time, perform the scan, and then append the result to our result dictionary. So we are going to say for port in port, and then we are going to now invoke the TCP scan type. Then we are going to say scan result, and then equals to we assignment operation. Well, then we are going to invoke TCP scan function. We are going to invoke the TCP scan function, and then we are going to pass to it the target of the scan, and then we are going to pass to it the port. Okay, so now scan result will contain the result of the scan whether the port is open, closed, or filtered. Now, after doing this, now we are going to add it to the dictionary. So we are going to say result dict, and then our key is going to be the port that we performed the scan on, and the result is going to be the scan result. All right, so that is what we are going to do for each of the scan types. So next time, then we are going to check. Now, okay, so after performing the result, now we are going to invoke another function called print result, which we are going to implement in the next lecture. So we are going to invoke print result, and then the print result, we are going to pass to it the appropriate argument, and then the print result will now actually print out the result for us. So next, we can check for other types of the scan types. We can check if the scan type that was specified is sin scan, and then we also iterate through the port, then perform the scan, then add the scan result to our dictionary, and then finally print it out to the result. So I'll just copy this and then do it for all the other scan types. So we just copy this, and then I'll come and paste it. Paste it here, and then we are checking now if the scan type is sin scan. Which was the second scan type that we performed, that we coded. Now, if the scan type is sin scan, and then we also want to iterate through the port, and then we are going to invoke scan result, and then we are going to invoke sin scan, not TCP scan. Now sin scan, and then perform the scan, then the result is going to be assigned to scan result, and then we are going to add it to our dictionary. So result dict port, and then we have the key at the port, and then the value at the scan result, and then finally we invoke we invoke print result to print out the result for us. Okay, so print result has to be outside the loop because we are not printing out the result. Okay, so the print result will be outside the loop. We are going to take it outside the loop because we are not printing the result each time we invoke function. We invoke function scan. After performing the scan, we are not printing the result each time. It is we are printing out the collective result, not individual result. So let me remove the print result from the inside the loop. Also here, I'm going to remove it from inside the loop. We are going to print out the collective result, not individual result. All right. So I'm also going to copy this and then paste it for the other type of scan. So I'll just come down here and then paste it here. And then let's check the what was the start scan type that we did. After scene scan, we did XMS scan. So XMS scan. So we just go over there again and then write XMS. So if the scan type is XMS scan, so we are checking if the scan type is XMS, and then we are going to invoke function XMS scan. All right. Then we finally we print out the result. Okay, so the next type of scan is the pin scan. So I'll just copy this again and then paste it, and then paste it here, and then we are checking if the scan type that was specified is pin scan, and then we are going to perform pin scan, and then we are going to finally print out the result. Then we check the other scan type that was specified after pin scan. After pin scan is null scan, then arc scan, then window scan. Okay, so we check if it is a null scan. So we just copy this and then paste it here and check if the scan that was specified is null scan. Then we are going to invoke function null scan. So we invoke function null scan. So I'll just still go over again and paste it, and then check if the scan type that was specified is arc scan. And then we are going to invoke function arc scan, and then print out the result. And then we also go over and check if the scan type that was specified is window scan, which was specified with the wind. Using wind. Then we are going to invoke function window scan. Okay, so let me go over and get the proper function name so that we won't have error when we decide to run the program. Window scan. Okay, so we wrote it in full. So here I'm also going to write window scan. So we are going to invoke function window scan. Now the last type of scan is the UDP scan. So we are going to check if it is UDP that was specified over the terminal. If it is UDP that was specified over the terminal, then we are going to invoke function UDP scan, then perform the scan, and then print out the result for us also as well. Okay, so and then so far our function specify scan type. Now can check all the scan types and then call the appropriate scan type and then get the result, append the result to a dictionary, and then we are finally going to print out the result in the next function that we are going to create in the next lecture. All right, but there's not any error handling technique so far in this our code because it's checking for whether it is TCP scan, scene scan, XMS scan, pin scan, null scan. But now what if the user specify anything other than this, or in the course of writing window scan, he wrote it in full window instead of wind as we specify in the option in the function get argument, then we are going to have error. So we need to perform some error handling technique so that if the user anything other than what we are expecting, then we are going to print out an error message for him. So instead of using if, we are going to instead of using if selection control structure, we are going to make use of multiple selection control structure by modifying this to elif, not if. So we are going to come here and check and change this to elif. Elif scan type is scene, then all other ones also I'm going to change them from if to elif so that we can have the else condition and else selection, and then print the appropriate error message. Okay, so elif, not else, and then it is finally that we are going to add the else. So come here again change it from if to elif, and then come down there again, change it from if to elif, and then come down here again, change it from if to elif, and then also come down here, instead of if, change it to elif. All right, so and then also here elif. Okay, and then finally we are going to check anything other than this, then we are going to print out an error message. So we have else, anything other than the conditions there, then we are going to print out an error message. So we are going to print an error message. So as usual, a dash colon, please unsupported scan type, unsupported scan type, please check enter help. Okay, so enter -h for help. So this error message is going to be printed out to the user. All right, so let's go and let's invoke this function now. So instead of saying response equals to UDP scan, now we are going to invoke our specify scan type, and then we are going to see specify scan type, and then we are going to pass the scan type, which we are going to get from option. So we are going to say option, and then option, which is the variable that will hold the argument that the user enter about the terminal. Now let's go off to the get argument and see the name we specify for the scan type, the variable name we assign for the scan type. So we can see scan, specify scan type. Okay, so it is scan, not scan type. So scan option.scan, so it's going to be option.scan. So I'll just go down again and then write it as option.scan. So we are going to pass it as option.scan, which is a positional argument. Option.scan, that is one of the argument that we are going to pass to function specify scan type. And then let me go over again. So we are pass scan type, target and port. So target and port. So we go over again, and then we are going to pass option.scan, then option.target, which is another positional argument, option.target. And then finally, we are going to pass the ports that we have in line 274, the result of what we have from invoking function set forth. So we are going to pass to it port, which is basically a list that contains all the ports that the user want to scan using our port scanner. So I'm going to remove this now and then run it. We are not expecting any result since we are not printing any result. If we couldn't get any error, that means that our function, we can assume that the what we have coded, there's no any error, and then in the next class we are going to see how we can implement and get the result printed out. Okay, so I'm going to clear here and then run the program and see what we're going to have. Okay, so we have an error here, print result, line 224, print result, error name, print result is not defined, name error, print result is not defined. So let's go over. Okay, yes, print result is not defined because we haven't created function print result. All right, so that is not an issue. Now in the next lecture we are going to actually implement the print result, and then so that when we won't have this issue, because actually this is a function that we are going to define in the next class. So the program is saying we haven't defined name error print result. It couldn't identify anything print result because we haven't created the function yet. So in the next lecture we are going to create print result and then get the result printed out.